Fortune's Progeny, The Ascent, Episode 14, The Sanctuary Model. The drive back from the Highlands was a blur of winding roads and shifting light. Trent's notebook sat open on his lap, the single sentence he'd written the night before staring back at him. The question is not what it costs, but what it holds in place. He had the question. He did not yet have the answer. The shared house was quiet when he returned, his housemates scattered to their usual Sunday routines. He retreated to his room, locked the door, and spread out the materials Silas had given him, the financials, the historical documents, and the photographs. The Highlands was a beautiful anchor, but anchors were heavy. He needed to find a way to make its weight purposeful, not burdensome. Over the next week, he approached the problem from every angle he could imagine. He consulted with Ben Choi from ESG, whose quiet expertise in sustainability metrics proved invaluable. He called Anya, his sister, for context on the family's emotional attachment to the property. He even reached out to Eli, the carpenter, for a craftsman's perspective on maintenance versus replacement costs. Slowly, a solution began to take shape. It was an accumulation of small recognitions.
First, the Highlands could not be made profitable. Its costs were structural, baked into its age, its location, its very identity. Any attempt to monetize it, turning it into a venue, a hotel, or a tourist attraction, would destroy what made it valuable. The peace, the silence, the sense of continuity. These were its only products, and they could not be sold. Second, the Highlands could not be shuttered. The family's attachment, while sentimental, was real. Generations of Aethelgards had been married there, mourned there, celebrated there. Closing it would be an amputation, not a cost-cutting measure. Therefore, the solution had to be a third path. Redefine the purpose. Not profit, not preservation for its own sake, but active, intentional use that justified the cost without commercializing the soul. Trent's proposal took shape over 2 intense weeks of drafting and revision. He titled it The Sanctuary Model, optimizing for purpose, not profit. The core idea was simple. The Highlands would be formally established as the Aethelgard Stewardship Residency, a dedicated space for strategic thinking, ethical reflection, and leadership development within the family and the company. Its use would be structured, not sporadic. 3 pillars formed the model. Pillar 1, the Leadership Silent Retreat. Once per year, the top 10 executives of Aethelgard Holdings would be required to spend 3 days at the Highlands. No phones, no presentations, no agenda. Just nature, silence, and long-term thinking. The cost would be framed not as a retreat expense, but as an annual investment in strategic clarity. Pillar 2, the Stewardship Fellowship. Shortlisted candidates for the group's internal ethical leadership program would spend 1 month at the Highlands, immersed in the family's history and the principles of the covenant. They would work alongside Alden, learning the practical demands of stewardship. The cost would be framed as leadership incubation. Pillar 3, the Family Refuge. The Highlands would remain available to family members on request for weddings, reunions, or simply quiet weekends. But access would be managed through a simple reservation system, ensuring the property was used, not just held. The cost would be framed as legacy access. The financial model was designed to make its cost transparent and purposeful, not to make the Highlands profitable. Each use would be assigned to a specific budget line: executive development, leadership training, family office, rather than bleeding from a vague property maintenance account. The total cost would remain the same, but its allocation would transform it from a liability into an investment. Trent submitted the proposal on a Friday afternoon, hitting send with a mixture of relief and anxiety. Unlike the Atelier proposal, which had felt like a creative breakthrough, this one felt like a careful, patient construction. He had not reinvented the Highlands. He had simply given it a reason. The response came faster than expected, not from the board,
but from Silas, who arrived at the shared house the following Tuesday. Placing a single sheet of paper on Trent's desk, Silas said,
"Your proposal for the Highlands, the trustees have reviewed it."
Trent read the feedback, his eyes scanning the clinical language for the hidden meaning. Assessment. Contender Theta. Highlands proposal. Proposal demonstrates strong alignment with established cultural principles. See Atelier Initiative. Exhibits a consistent philosophy of valuing legacy and strategic intangible assets. Financial model shifts focus from revenue generation to cost justification via purpose allocation. This is a defensible, principle-centric approach. Risk. Model is inherently non-scalable and depends on continued internal buy-in for the assigned purpose, vulnerable to budgetary scrutiny in future cycles. Conclusion. A high-consistency, philosophically elegant solution that solidifies the contender's profile as a steward of heritage. Contrasts sharply with other proposals focusing on asset monetization. This further differentiates Theta's strategic lane. Trent looked up at Silas.
"So, it's approved?"
Silas gave a single, slow nod.
It is noted. More importantly, it is seen. The trustees now understand that your philosophy is not merely sentimental. It is a coherent, defensible framework for managing the unmanageable, the assets that cannot be optimized, only stewarded. This is a rare skill. Do not underestimate its value.
That evening, Trent called Alden. The old caretaker's voice was crackly over the line, but his words were clear.
"So, they're not selling it then?"
"They're not selling it. You're staying."
A long pause. Then, quietly,
Good. The lake would have missed me.
Trent smiled, something loosening in his chest.
"I'll be back to visit, to sit on the terrace."
You'll be welcome. Always.
Trent hung up and looked at the photograph of Alistair's workshop on his phone. The founder's eyes, fixed on his craft, seemed to hold a patience that Trent was only beginning to learn. The forge was still hot, but he was learning to work with the fire, not just survive it. He opened the stewardship binder and wrote a final entry for the night. Entry: the Highlands. Not solved. Stewarded. The difference is everything.